Wherever Batman is, I'm not too far behind. I'm right there with him.
There's too many moments in that movie that first time watching where my brother and I are just like hitting ourselves on the shoulder like, oh my gosh, this is amazing.
What is a Batman without a Robin? You need the dynamic duo.
Welcome one, welcome all to Screen Rant's Challenge My Goat. My name is Liam Crowley and I'm your shepherd through this journey of superlatives as we crown some of the greatest topics in film, television, music, entertainment as a whole history. And today we are venturing into the world of comic book movies because we are crowning the greatest Batman of all time. It's a topic that has been circled on my calendar for our Challenge My Goat recordings for a while because I'm stoked to see what these two people bring to the table. Our expert today is Screen Rant training lead Derek Faraci. Derek, what makes you qualified to declare the greatest Batman of all time, and who's your GOAT?
I would say I'm qualified because there's never been a moment in my life that Batman has not been part of it. Obviously, I was not born pre the existence of Batman, but I grew up in a family of somewhat comic nerds. My father read comics. Batman was always present, Batman toys, Batman action figures, whatnot, as I learned to read on comics, and Batman was a part of that. I've been following Batman's, we'll say, career for my entire life, be it in the comics, cartoons, movies, TV shows, wherever Batman is, video games, wherever Batman is, I'm not too far behind. I'm right there with him. There have been versions I like, there have been versions I love, there are versions that I despise, but I've looked at, I'm not going to say all of them because there's an endless amount of Batman material out there. I've looked at the vast majority of it, I would say. I know the character well, I know who he is, I know what he's about, I know his family, I would fit right in at Thanksgiving without missing a beat of who is who. And that is why I am quite positive that the greatest live action Batman of all time is Adam West.
Adam West is our GOAT selection on Challenge My Goat. A curveball to start us out. When Derek told me who his pick was, I was like, I'm ready to hear this debate because we have had decades of good Batman since, but I'm not the one here debating. We have our challenger here. It's Screen Rant senior writer, Mr. Kevin Erdmann. Kevin, what makes you qualified to challenge Derek's GOAT?
Awesome. Hi. A lot of the same qualifications. I think Batman has been very similarly the ever-present shadow in my life of just my comic book fandom, multiple versions of Batman I'm a huge fan of. Some I like, some I don't. I think at least with every Batman, there's something I do like. There's something I do love, I can appreciate. So I'm really excited to get into this. I have written far too many articles about various Batman, and I'm super excited for today.
It is one of the most storied characters in fiction. This character existed first on the comic page, and now I feel like is just a staple of pop culture. Like every generation has its Batman. Every Batman that we get over the course of multiple decades, multiple films, multiple genres and mediums is so different and so distinguished. So it's not like we're asking you two to debate two versions of the same character. You're almost picking from two different eras here. Derek, I need you to lay out your foundation for me right now. You got 2 minutes to set the stage. What makes Adam West the greatest Batman of all time?
I have a scientific breakdown of this, so stick with me for a moment. There are certain pieces of Batman that need to be accounted for, and of all the live action Batmans, Adam West is the only one that hits every point. Others hit a lot of the points, but not every point. We've got world's greatest detective, martial arts master, scientist, gadgeteer, father figure, dual identity, secret identity, and being kind of goofy. Adam West is the only one that hits every single piece of this, and I will gladly argue over each and every single one of them and every piece and explain how this works.
He only used 30 seconds of his 2 minutes.
Nope.
He laid out the most scientific breakdown we've had on Challenge My Goat yet. This might be the most confident intro to a Challenge My Goat yet. I'm floored right now. We're going to color in all of those points in the debate section itself. But Kevin, we'll now turn to you. You have 2 minutes to tell me why you disagree with Kevin's pick, with Derek's pick.
Here's how I'm going to disagree. I'm going to disagree not to each of those points, but I will ask, is there enough of each of those? are enough of those facets explored? Do we see enough of those aspects with Adam West? Or is it maybe just a little too much of the campy silliness, which I love, but is it a little too much compared to other live action Batman? I think that's where I'm going to probably sit with my argument on each of those points. And I think that'll be pretty fun to explore.
Okay, again, only 30 seconds used of the 2-minute lay the foundation portion of our show. I love this. This debate section is ripe for the picking. Kevin, we're kicking off with you to get into a formal conversation about this. Formal, I don't even want to call it formal. I want you two to fight. I want you two to verbally joust. Because Kevin, I know who your challenger pick is. Tell the audience.
My challenger pick is Robert Pattinson's Batman. After agonizing, it is Robert Pattinson's Batman, and I feel confident on rolling those dice.
Okay, Derek, we're throwing it right back to you. Robert Pattinson's Batman has appeared once. One film, 3 hours, 3 years ago. Is it too soon to declare Robert Pattinson the greatest of all time?
Yes, I would say it is. I actually just rewatched the Pattinson film this past weekend. And it's a good movie. It's a fine movie. And there's some great stuff in it. But where are the Batman gadgets? What puzzles does he solve? He's up against the Riddler. He needs people to solve all the puzzles for him. You know, he doesn't have a plane. He's got a car. It's cool, but it's not a bat car. You know, it's not the Batmobile. He's got a motorcycle. That's fun. It's not the Bat Cycle. You know, he's way too broody. Like, as Bruce Wayne, he's walking around looking like a member of the Cure. He's not separating his secret identity from his private identity, you know, from his Batman identity. He is just not hitting those marks. And I think the movie, to its credit, knows that, because at the end of the movie, what does he come to realize? He's like, oh, I need to be a symbol of hope, not just a symbol of fear. So maybe in the next one, and as if they make the trilogy that they hope to make, we'll see him become the greatest Batman, live action Batman of all time. But right now, he doesn't hold a candle to Adam West. I'm sorry. He can't do it.
Derek is a confident debater. He's a confident debater. He speaks with conviction every time. Kevin, this pick surprised me a little bit. I will say Pattinson, for me, he feels like he's on his way to reaching that status. But still, this is something that you said you mulled over for a little bit. How did you reach the conclusion that Pattinson is the greatest of all time with only having one film to his catalog?
With only one film to his catalog, I still believe that The Batman is the perfect pitch for what this Dark Knight can become, his potential, the ability to have a fully fleshed out and realized Batman, especially when we get into that third act. I feel like this is a Batman who encompasses a true embodiment of the Dark Knight, like we've seen on the page. Even if it's like younger in his career, I feel like it's pristine. I feel like there is limitless potential, and part of my argument is speculative, but I do have points that are going to focus on the actual movie itself and what we got. As far as that embodiment where he grows from, I can't be vengeance alone. I have to be vengeance combined with hope. I have to take on the criminal element as well as protect the innocent, which is that component he was missing. So even in those 3 hours, we get this wonderful evolution of something really great at the beginning is the montage, right? He's got tackling the criminal element like nailed. That is down. 2 years in, he knows how to deal with that, right? The fact that we have criminals fearing every shadow, whether Batman's in the shadow, like in there or not, they're scared. And that is the fear of Batman. He's got it. He's nailed it. But as we go and evolve through those 3 hours, we get the other side of Batman, which is being hope. You know, and I think that's what really led to my decision, because that's something that I think, you know, our Snyderverse, Ben Affleck struggled with because he was so late in his career and we got that jaded stuff. I think the Christian Bale Batman attempted, and I think we got that towards the end, but I feel like the messaging in the Matt Reeves version with Robert Pattinson is really very well developed and very captivating.
Kevin just spoke for a while there. Derek, I want to give you some floor. I want to give you some time. And the question I will ask you, and you're also free to combat some of Kevin's points there, is Adam West's Batman has aged the most. We've spent the most time with Adam West's Batman in pop culture. Why is today in 2025 Adam West's Batman still better than the other interpretations that we've got? Because a lot of people on the surface will say Adam West is the campy Batman, but you've brought some points to the table already that have shown some light on other sides of his version of Batman. So can you speak to that a little bit, and also feel free to poke some holes in Kevin's argument?
Sure. Adam West is the longest, right? We've known him the longest as Batman. He certainly had the most time, 3 seasons of a TV show and a movie, hundreds of hours of Batman material to pull from. He's also still to this day the most iconic, right? The Robin's holy fill in the blank is still something that people know. The Batusi is still a common meme and joke. Everything about him stands out. The onomatopoeias, people know these things from that. His theme song is the most known Batman theme song, more than any others, I would say. And to connect into that, into Robert Pattinson and the iconic stature of Adam West's Batman, they based Robert Pattinson's mask on Adam West's Batman's mask. It's the same type of mask. It even has eyebrows on it. Like, they looked at it and said, yeah, you're not going to do better than that. That is the one to go with, and this is the character as he stands. Now, the goofiness is there, of course, because Batman at his heart is kind of goofy. He is kind of campy. He is a billionaire who dresses up in a costume and flies around the city and fights criminals, right? I mean, that's a campy thing to do. And sometimes when he's not fighting criminals, he's hanging out in a space station with other people that wear costumes and they prepare for alien invasions, right? This is his life. This is what he does all day. He sees a kid that works in the circus as an acrobat have his parents be murdered, and he's like, I know what I'll do. I'll dress him up in a green, red, and yellow costume, and have him fight crime with me. Like, this is not a guy who takes things overly seriously. In the comics, in the past 20, 30 years, they've moved into him being more serious, right? Like, he's always down and dour and upset. But that's not the heart of Batman. The heart of Batman is a guy who is doing these things, and he's got darkness in him, but he also understands showmanship. None of the other Batmans understand showmanship. None of them pop out as much. Some of them have pieces. You got I think all of them have the bat signal. He's the first in live action to have the bat signal. But his car is the best. His helicopter is cool. And he's got a gadget for everything. And yes, he is a man who will espouse the necessity of manners and treating people properly and respectfully. But shouldn't Batman do that? Isn't that part of being a hero? Is setting an example? And he sets the example for everyone. So Pattinson's good. He's good. Too moody, too emo for my taste in some ways. But again, we'll see where he goes. Until then, Adam West conveys Adam West I can see, to put it another way, Adam West is the only live action Batman who would have a giant replica of a T-Rex and a giant penny in his Batcave. He doesn't have them in the show. There was no space for it. There's no budget for it. But he's the one I would believe would have that, because in his Batcave, he does have a giant nuclear reactor for some reason. And, a billion computers that do very specific things. He is not afraid to play into the showmanship and the fun of being Batman, where everyone else that has come since, except for, Clooney, but, everyone else has played on the seriousness of it. Even in Tim Burton's Batman and Batman Returns, which have campiness to them, he is still a very dark, grim figure. And he's also, of all the Batmans, the biggest murderer. Like, he loves to kill people in those movies. So that takes him out of the running, in my opinion. Which Pattinson, to Pattinson's credit, doesn't kill anybody. Good for him. He's honestly, he's the only one who does not kill anyone, because in the Batman Adam West movie, he does kill a thug. He does not mean to. The thug is rehydrated from dust using heavy water, which makes him unstable. So when Batman kicks him, he pops out of the universe. Not Batman's fault, but still, he did kill that man. But Pattinson has not killed anyone so far.
You know, for two people who just skipped the 2 minutes of laying the foundation, you guys both love to just monologue here in the debate section. And I love that. I love getting into those well thought out points. But I want some back and forth here. And how I'm going to start this is going to Kevin first. We sometimes like to do a nostalgia temp check. I always like to see if people's selections for their greatest picks of all time, whatever topic we're doing, if it's influenced a little bit by the first time we were exposed to whatever our pick is. So, Kevin, could you set the stage for me when you were first introduced to Robert Pattinson's Batman? Who were you with at the theater? What was the vibe? And did you feel immediately after like this was the Batman that was going to define your generation?
100%. We went to the theater opening night. My entire family, my brother's there right with me, who is just as big of a Batman fan as I am. And whether it was the theme, the Nirvana, whether it was the Batmobile and that incredible debut, because I'm gonna push back here, because I do think that the Pattinson Batmobile is the best Batmobile, if we want to take that as a little aside. Because that, I mean, you want to talk about showmanship and theatrics.
It's the most similar to Adam West's Batmobile.
And I will say it is the most similar.
Very similar cars.
If you pick two, they're both right there, right? They're very in that same space of being an actual car you might see rather than like a rolling tank like we see with Bale. So like, as far as like showmanship and theatrics, like the messaging of his fear and his legend and what he's trying to communicate to the criminal element, I feel like it's just all there. There's too many moments in that movie, that first time watching, where my brother and I are just like hitting ourselves on the shoulder like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Like, just super great. You know, we walked out of there just absolutely ecstatic for what the future held, and that it just continued with the Penguin as just far as, you know, continuing this world of Gotham. And I feel like what's really important for me with Batman is when Gotham feels like just as much of a character as Batman himself. And I feel like we can list all the ways where it's not, but I feel like you definitely see it in the Batman and the world that Matt Reeves is building. Gotham has those qualities that make it feel distinct enough to be a character right alongside Pattinson. When I was picking Pattinson, I was like, okay, am I picking this because of like recency bias, right? He's the newest one, and am I just excited by the shiny new? And I really don't think that's the case. I think there's a lot of love that I have for past Batman, but when it comes to Pattinson, I really truly see him as the definitive.
Okay. Well, I want to throw it back to Derek here, because Derek, I want to hear your origin story with Adam West's Batman. What was your first exposure to Adam West as Batman, and how long after the fact were you ready to declare him the GOAT? Because he was the first. So by default, he was the greatest of all time for a little bit. But once you started to compare to Keaton, to Val Kilmer, to eventually Christian Bale, Robert Pattinson, Ben Affleck, at what stage were you like, nah, Adam West is still my number one?
All right. So Adam West Batman, I first came to know roughly around the time when the Burton Batman was coming out. And on Nickelodeon, on Nick at Night, they started showing the Batman TV show. And I would watch it religiously. And I loved it. And I still love it to this day. I have the Blu-rays. I have, you know, the movie in 4K. Got it all. Love it, love it, love it. Now, there was a period, you know, in my angsty teens where I was like, that's not Batman. That's not what Batman's supposed to be. He's dark and gritty and blah, blah, blah. He's Frank Miller's Dark Knight. That's Batman. And then I got older and I was like, you know what? Let's check that out again. And I did. And I was like, no, this is Batman. Every piece of Batman is here, is represented. You know, some of them more than others, for sure. But, you know, he is the only one who encompasses everything that Batman is supposed to be. And I gave you my breakdown, my points of what makes a good Batman. He hits all of them. Other ones hit pieces of them, or so, like some of them, but not every aspect, right? And that's the important thing to me, is this is every aspect of what makes Batman Batman. Adam West connects to those. Robert Pattinson, he's good, I think an argument can be made that he's, numero dos. He wouldn't understand that, though, because as we saw in the movie, he doesn't speak Spanish. Where is there a Batman that doesn't speak Spanish? Are you kidding me? He's the world's greatest detective. He couldn't figure out that a rat with wings is a bat and not a penguin? Come on. Really? This is the guy? This is the one you're going to fight for? Are you sure?
Well played, Derek. Well played. Kevin, to throw it back to you, and a topic I want to round out the debate section with before we get into our closing statements. Batman is often, I can't even say often, Batman to me is defined by his rogues gallery. Batman as a character is not as strong as he can be without these different adversaries bringing out different sides of him. I'm not going to make your argument for you. I have things in my head I want to say, so I'm going to let you say them for Robert Pattinson. But even through one film, we had the luxury of getting to see Robert Pattinson's Batman against a number of different antagonists and a number of different types of antagonists. So I want you to speak on Batman and his rogues gallery. I don't want this to turn into a who's got the better villains debate between Adam West's Batman and Robert Pattinson's Batman. I want you to format this as, what about Robert Pattinson's rogues gallery brings out the best Batman of any of the live action Batmans we've seen so far?
Yeah, I think we can all agree that a hero is only as good as their villains. And I think the villains we got in the Batman are just as dynamic and captivating as Pattinson's Batman himself. I mean, you have Paul Dano's Riddler, who is like the inverted orphan, the path that Bruce Wayne could have taken had he not been so fortunate. You have Selina Kyle, right? And she's got her own motives and desire for vengeance. And when Batman is vengeance alone, she's like, why aren't you, helping me take down revenge upon my father, Carmine Falcone? You get all these great additions. Colin Farrell's Penguin, obviously. They're all just as captivating and just as dynamic. And it really, it's part of that, creating a Gotham that's just as important and significant as Batman himself. The world in which he operates, the people in which he interacts with are fascinating. It's why any one of them could get their own project or their own show, their own spinoff. There's so much to work with. And I just think it's fascinating. And I think I don't know if you can offer as much dimension and depth to Adam West's Rogues Gallery as much as they hit those beats of those characters from the comics, especially like when we look at like the Golden Age. I don't know if you can get much lower than the surface.
Okay, I know, and we're only scratching the surface with Pattinson's Rogues Gallery. We've seen a couple so far. The seeds are planted for others. Derek, I see you itching to make a point here. Talk to me about Adam West's Rogues Gallery, and what about those different villains brings out the best qualities of Batman?
All right, we're going to stick to just the movie for this, right? And I don't want to be unfair and go into the TV show, because that's, again, hundreds of hours of stories right there. But just the Batman movie, you have Joker, you have Penguin, you have Riddler, and you have Catwoman. Those are the four villains he's facing in his movie. Not only is it those four, they are the exact replicas of what those characters were at the time in the comics. And even beyond that, in some ways, because both Riddler and Catwoman were not popular characters in the comics at the time. Riddler had not shown up for years when the show aired. They turned Riddler into an A-list Batman rogue. So without this show, there is no Matt Reeves Batman movie with the Riddler. This show turned Riddler into the character that people are like, I want to know more about this guy. He's very interesting. He stands out. He had a great costume, all of them. I mean, Joker, I'm sorry, Cesar Romero's Joker is an amazing look. Burgess Meredith as the Penguin is, I'm not going to lie, he's the second best Penguin. You can't beat Danny DeVito, let's be honest. But his Penguin is fantastic. And his Penguin is, into the idea of the genius of Batman and of that show. He is the Penguin that exists across all mediums, right? He is the one who's like, oh, he's not a great looking guy, but he puts on airs and tries to be fancy. That's Colin Farrell's Penguin. They just put Colin Farrell in a fat suit, where Burgess Meredith was just a short, lumpy dude. So they didn't need to worry about that. Lee Merriweather as Catwoman, fantastic, wonderful stuff. Her look, that Catwoman suit that they created for the show, for the movie and for the show, is what Catwoman has become. That bodysuit, the Tim Burton Catwoman is a version of that. Kravitz's Catwoman is more year one, but still a bodysuit. She's still wearing it. They've gotten afraid to be like, oh yeah, she's got cat ears on for some reason. They're too real and gritty to do that these days. But that's what she is, and that's how she should look. And then the Riddler, and amazing. He's wearing a suit sometimes that's got question marks on it. He's wearing a bodysuit sometimes that's got question marks on it. And all of them, their goal is consistently A, cause chaos, B, get under Batman's skin. That's all they're interested in doing. Is it shallow? Sure. But they're, maniacal villains. They should be a little shallow. Their goals should be shallow. Too often, we take a villain and say, well, what makes them tick? Let's make them, let's put sympathy and pity on them. And sometimes that works great. Sometimes that's amazing in stories. I don't need to feel pity for the Riddler. I need the Riddler to be making crazy riddles that only Batman or Robin could solve. If anyone else can solve them, then the Riddler's not that impressive to me. He's cool looking in the movie. The whole Zodiac look is great, but he's not the Riddler. He's the Zodiac. That's a different character at that point. So to me, what makes Batman's villains so great is that they are the comic versions brought to life. Adam West's Batman's villains so great is they are the comic versions brought to life. And to verge a little bit off the villain thing, he's also got a Robin. And what is a Batman without a Robin? You need the dynamic duo. They have a name, the dynamic duo. No other superhero and sidekick, as far as I can think of right now, has a connective name that says, oh, it's the two of them. That is how important Robin is to Batman. And whenever you have a Batman without a Robin, you're missing an essential piece of the character. And it's that Batman wants a family. Above all else, he desires family. Robin, Batgirl, Alfred, these are his family. And Adam West's Batman, aside from, again, Clooney, is the only one who has all of these pieces. I guess Kilmer also has a Robin, but the full family dynamic doesn't come until Clooney. The movie's garbage, and that's the end of that discussion. But the villains, I'm not dying to see super detailed villains in a Batman story. I want a Batman story. And Adam West's Batman is a Batman story. That's what I look for.
Lots of great points brought to the table as we round out our debate. Kevin, I will give you 60 seconds to wrap this thing up. You can combat some of what Derek just said. You can bow tie your whole argument, whatever you want to do with these last 60 seconds. Tell us why Robert Pattinson definitively is the greatest of all time.
Okay, here I go. I'm going to give you the Robin point. I think Robin is very important. It's part of the reason why I'm looking forward to the DCU Batman and getting Robin in there. Family's important. I'm going to argue we also see Pattinson seeking family, the entire connection with Alfred, seeing him less as a butler and more of a father as we get through it. Someone he can't bear to lose. He's looking for a kindred spirit with Catwoman. So again, I think those pieces are there and they only have room to grow. As far as tying a bow on it, I would never discount that Adam West is the Bat Godfather, started it all, right? He's our foundation. I think my argument is, did Adam West dance so that other Batman in live action could evolve and run, right? That's what I'm going to maybe just end on, is it's just too campy for what people want from their Batman right now.
A well-argued closing statement from Kevin, bringing some fire to Derek. Derek, you got 60 seconds to round us out. What makes Adam West's Batman the greatest of all time?
Kevin, the people are wrong. I don't know how else to say it. The people are wrong. Batman dances. Batman understands joy. He understands hope. He understands happiness. These are not the forefront pieces of him, but they are there, and he craves them. Without Adam West, the Batman that we know today literally does not exist. Frank Miller's Dark Knight was a response to Adam West, right? It was Batman has become too goofy in the eyes of the public. I'm going to show that he's tough and cool and yada, yada, yada. And even before that, you have Denny O'Neil and Neil Adams and their take on Batman, which is a much more grounded version in many ways, but they still have him traveling the world and fighting monsters and whatnot from time to time, Ra's al Ghul and all that stuff, immortality, it comes into play. Now, again, none, except for Clooney, none of the Batmans are terrible. Adam West is the only one that is everything that makes Batman Batman.
I love those closing statements, specifically the last 5 seconds of each of your two debates. We can put that on a poster, and I can't decide between you two of who the greatest Batman of all time is. That's why we leave it up to the audience. So if you disagree with our picks, if you disagree with Kevin's Robert Pattinson or Derek's Adam West, head over to the comments of Screen Rant's Challenge My GOAT Best Batman of All Time article and let us know what your selection would be. Or if you agree with Kevin or Derek, let us know why you agree with each of their picks. I wonder with what Derek was saying, at some point does Batman become like a death of the author kind of character where it's like, thank you for the origin story, we'll take it from here? Because there's certain qualities in my Batman that I love which are different from what Derek likes, which is different from what Kevin likes, and I think that's what makes this character so special. He is like our modern equivalent of, I don't know, like a Shakespearean, like classic character. Each generation will have a different interpretation, and I think that's what makes it so rich. Anyways,
if I can steal from Grant Morrison explaining Batman and into what you're saying, Grant Morrison has said Batman is the only character in literature that can adapt to any form of story. He can be in a horror story, he can be in a comedy, he can be in a musical. Batman works in all of them. Adam West works in all of them.
He's a special character. There's none like him. Derek, squeeze in one last point. I'll let it slide for now. But noted for the future. And I want to revisit this debate whenever the Batman sequel comes out, because again, Robert Pattinson, we have the luxury of time with that character. Adam West, we have the luxury of time aging him, possibly like fine wine, as the years continue. If you have a well thought out Batman argument in the comments of Screen Rant's article, we will read it on the show next week. And I got some comments from last week's episode where we debated the best boy band of all time. I'm wearing so many different hats here at Screen Rant where we're just hopping from genre to genre, all these different topics. These two debates couldn't have been more different, and I had so much fun last week. Gal with a movie camera brought a suggestion. The 90s in me needs to argue that it's the Backstreet Boys. We still play their music everywhere 32 years later. While 1D is still naturally very relevant, I would argue that they're the most memorable in their solo careers, and we barely hear their band music now. And then we have a comment from someone named Liam T. Crowley, who says, big time rush, happenstance success story given that the original Kendall was someone else in the test pilot and they were manufactured for a TV show, not necessarily to break out and tour, yet so popular they could sell out arenas all over the world. All four members have drastically different sounds, yet pair together so well. Their top tracks, even their album tracks, are a perfect mix of typical boy band lyrics, but they can also get really deep. Successful genre bent with a pop punk anthem in Paralyze, and dropped an absolute banger holiday track in Beautiful Christmas. What a well thought out argument by that Liam guy.
So
He's
good.
got a future in debating boy bands if Eric wants to do it a little bit more. Anyways, guys, speaking of next week, we're going to be debating the best TV show on next week's show. We're getting pretty broad here. We're a couple weeks honing in on some pretty specific topics with boy bands and live action Batman, but now we're going into TV show. I'm excited to see what our panelists bring to the table there. We could go sitcom, we could go drama, we could go anthology. What makes a good TV show? How do you crown the greatest TV show? It's next week's problem. We'll get to it then. Guys, a genuine pleasure sharing this microphone with you. I loved hearing your points. Kevin, I feel like you brought new layers to my interpretation of Robert Pattinson's Batman. And Derek, you make me want to give Adam West's Batman a second look. I'm only familiar with the surface level of that Batman, and I think it's worth going down the serialized rabbit hole. Before we get out of here, I want to give you both a chance to plug your work. Kevin, what you got going on at screenrant.com?
Yeah, you can find me at Screen Rant. I got my own author page. I'm doing a bunch of Batman right now. I'm doing a bunch of Hunt for Ben Solo. Ben Solo Lives. loving the Star Wars stuff right now. Read Legacy of Vader 10. That is my plug to read comics. Go read the comics right now. It's excellent. I loved it. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram. But yeah, Screen Rant.
Amazing. Derek, thank you again for bringing some well-thought points to the debate stage. Thank you for penning this article. I'm excited to read the actual editorial version because the way you speak, I feel like is translated very well to a well-thought-out essay. So excited to read that one. What else you got going on at Screen Rant, and where can the people find you?
I'm primarily behind the scenes at Screen Rant, so you can follow my author page, but it's very rare that I have time to publish an article, unfortunately, which is why something like this is so great. It feeds my ego a little bit, makes me feel good. So thank you for having me on. But on social media, you can find me on Blue Sky under WH Woolhat. Same with Instagram. And you can hear me rant about things on there as well.
Heck yeah. And you can find me on all platforms at Liam T. Crowley and on screenrant.com under my author page, Liam Crowley. Got a whole bunch of really cool interviews cooking up right now with a lot of movies that are in Oscar contention, as well as some big fall blockbusters. And we are hot on the heels of Percy Jackson Season 2, which is my baby. That's my franchise. And a lot of cool content in the works in all things Percy Jackson world. So keep it locked to screenrant.com for all cool stuff going on across all different genres, all different mediums of storytelling. We're keeping you well fed here all winter long. Guys, once again, thank you so much for joining us, and to our audience, we'll see you next week.